All right, everybody. This video is going to be talking about a genre analysis that I did using instruction manuals as an example. And these are not all the instruction manuals I used, as you'll see from the essay that I wrote for this example. I used a number, but I just chose two as examples. Both are different from each other, and I'll kind of talk about those differences. So on the left part of the screen right here, you will see a instruction manual for a ceiling ventilator. And if we scroll down, like let's just notice that it's 4 pages complete, and you have one language on one side and another language on the other. So in reality, this is more like 2 pages, and they have pictures in between, right? So back at the top here, in this second example, the second manual, we have a instructions for putting up a ceiling fan, and so if we continue to scroll down, you can kind of see the number there. That if we go all the way down to the bottom, it's a total of 17 pages. The first few, I think we pick up on, there's the cover, and we pick up on page 4. The first few were just things that didn't have anything to do with the installation, so I didn't include them since I had to take pictures and create a PDF file to make this happen. So I cut those pages out. But one is drastically different from the other, and the point of a genre analysis is to notice the difference and some of the things that you can make from this. So from the one side, let's start with the left. I'm going to say that this instruction manual was designed for professionals, and there's two things that tell me this. First of all, this is fairly complex, right? I mean, not everybody is going to just wake up on Saturday morning and put in a ceiling ventilator. Another thing that tells me that is that the pictures and the writing are incredibly small. We've kept this to just 4 pages for a very complicated system, whereas the ceiling fan, which is not as complicated, is in a total of about 14 pages in a single language, right? So this tells me I'm gonna make the assumption that this was created for professionals. The pictures are small. The descriptions are small, and it's not like this is going to be for the average Joe to put up. Although in theory they certainly could, because everything is there that you need to know about installing it. Let's look at the ceiling fan manual on the other hand. So if we look over here, we see the first page, getting ready. So what do you need to install the ceiling fan? Tells you everything you need, the tools that you're going to need, and checking out your parts, right? We don't necessarily see any of that over here on the left manual. So if we move up, installing the ceiling plate, and then it just kind of gets right into it. And so it breaks it down. One thing I can notice about this is that the pictures are very, very big, right? We can look at that right now. It's also organized in an orderly fashion. So the pictures are big so that we can get a sense of seeing what we're supposed to be doing, because they go in, or they work in conjunction with the directions, which if we notice, let's see, 1 sentence, 2 sentence for the first instruction. 1 sentence, 2 sentence for the second instruction, 1 sentence for the third, and so on. So what I'm getting to is that the directions are incredibly simple and incredibly short. They're not very detailed. So the pictures work in conjunction with the directions to give us that detail and to show us what to do. And so let's again look at this picture, a single picture per the stages, right? This is stage 3. Those are broken down nicely. So we're not overwhelming the reader and we're giving them a lot of direction. That would tell me that this is meant for the average Joe, right? Like just anybody, just say, let's suppose a homeowner says, hey, we need to put a ceiling fan in the bedroom. They go to a Home Depot, they open up the box to put up their ceiling fan, and here's the instruction manual on how to do it. So it has to be very clear, it has to be very simple, and it has to be very organized. And this is telling me, because the pictures are not small, because the directions are very simple, that this is designed for a person that hasn't done this before or doesn't do this for a living, right? So we can gather that much from here. I also think that looking at how big these pictures are, of all the manuals, this one had the biggest pictures. And stop and think about why that might be. I also looked at manuals for installing a garage door opener, or a garage door, I should say, installing a dishwasher, installing a microwave. There was one other I can't remember. Of all of them, this one had the largest pictures. And stop and think about why that might be. Like, I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. The reason why I think it might be that way is because think about your location. Where are you at if you are installing a fan, a ceiling fan? And the writers have to run on the assumption that the person installing it might be doing it themselves. Well, you're probably on a ladder or a chair or something, right? And your one hand is going to be needed to hold up the fan while the other hand screws it in or works with the tools, right? So unless you have 3 hands, you're not going to be able to hold that instruction manual up to your face, right? Close enough so that you can read it. So this is probably going to be sitting on the next step ladder, or like the top of the step ladder, maybe a couple feet away from your face, maybe more, depending upon how high your ceiling is. And so you have to be able to glance down, look at the pictures as you're dealing with this object. And so having bigger pictures helps you accomplish the project with fewer problems, right? Which leads to feelings of non-frustration, right? So let's talk about the emotions that can come from these manuals. Now, if for example, you have a difficult time, or maybe a step wasn't displayed clear enough, or maybe they they didn't think as clearly as they should have, and they may have skipped a step or try to combine a couple steps, that can lead to feelings of frustration because you're left alone, not knowing what to do, and you're feeling like the product that you bought is crap, right? And so that's going to make you angry. It's going to make you frustrated. It may result in you taking the item back. It may result in you setting up it with problems. It may result in you eventually setting up, but you telling your friends about your frustration, saying, don't buy from these people. Like, this is a bad company. They sold me a bad product, which you assume is a bad product simply because they skipped a step in trying to explain to you how to get it up. So, no, what this fan company wants to do is to leave their consumers feeling like they've installed it successfully. Not only do they want them to be able to install it without any problems, but they want them to be able to install it and feel good about how the installation process went. They want them to tell their friends, yes, I did that myself. This is a fan from such and such company. It went up without any problems, right? And so they want you to feel happy. They want you to feel content with the product that you just installed yourself. So I think that that is what was in the mind of the creators of this instruction manual, because we can see everything is clearly laid out. Even looking at this picture here on the right of page 10, we can see how the fan blades are supposed to be assembled, right? You can see how the screw comes down to the nut, or the grommet, excuse me, and then to the blade. And so it makes sense. Like, we get a visual picture of what is supposed to happen. So even though you're struggling up there on the ladder, you know how it's supposed to go in, and you can successfully accomplish that. And then it gives you close-up pictures of what it's supposed to look like when it's completed. So all of these come together to help the audience figure out how it's supposed to be installed. In the next video, I am going to discuss in more detail the analysis that I conducted from all of the manuals. This was just an example of how I brought in a couple manuals, made some notes, and then what I did with all the others, I did similar to doing this. And then I took all of those notes and I wrote an essay about it. And so we're going to talk about that in the next video. So go ahead and watch that guy.